Welcome everyone, Outlawed Live, take two. I did hit the go live button. I didn't hit the second one. There's like a redundant go live button. So welcome everyone. I was just talking to Mike Idle, my co-host here. I am Ron Stone. Mike is from Bevier, Missouri. I was asking Mike what the claim to fame of Bevier, Missouri is. Mike, go ahead and do your historical.
So what's Bevier famous for? We have right here on display in our hometown. If you're into big cubic inch, we need to measure the cubic inch on one of these. Steam locomotive. It was the last steam locomotive to be exclusively coal powered in the United States of America. Bevier's a big coal mining community. Bevier and Southern Railroad. And Ron, during that time I looked it up, simply named the Southern 112. So the Southern 112 sitting right here in Bevier, Missouri, was the last exclusively coal-powered steam locomotive. It actually operated into the mid-1970s, well into the days of the diesel-powered generator trains out there. But so yeah, that really good onion rings. We had a restaurant with good onion rings, as I was telling the world. Ron.
Nice quick research there in the reboot of the
interim
program.
In the interim, yeah, it didn't have anything cool. It wasn't Casey Jones or Big David or something like that. Just the Southern 112. I drive past it every single day. And it's one of those, I've never bothered to look at it close enough to notice the number on it. So you know how that goes. But
I know it's surprising to me, and I'm sure a lot of people that have come to know you on the show here and the shows that you've been doing, the podcast you've been on, it's you kind of like to dive into the historical things, when it comes to pulling and stuff. And when you said you didn't know the name of it, I was kind of shocked. So no, but quick research there.
We also have one of this in the world of pulling. One of the oldest super stock tractors to have been converted onto alcohol. Now, the person, he was a great friend of mine. He was a local announcer, did a lot of pulling. He's pulled that Indy Super Pull back in the day. And he says, as far as he knows, he was the second person, but one of the original alcohol conversions. That would be PC Long out of Bevier, Missouri, with the Mare's Toy light super stock 460 Farmall that he ran campaign pretty successfully back in the day. So on the pulling side of things, we do have that going for us as well.
PC Long, Brent Long, Glenn Long, all
He always said, he goes, I wished I was related to Brent, another great alcohol motor builder from right here in the Show Me State. But no, PC Long and Brent Long, not related, pulled in the same class, running very similar setups, but nope, not kin to each other.
Interesting. So we're going to be talking about Satsuma, Florida, coming up week from this Friday and Saturday, and then the following week, starting on Wednesday, Valentine's week, is National Farm Machinery Show 2025. Lots of good pulling coming up. Of course, also tonight we're going to be talking about those things, as well as when the smoke clears, Mike's weekly focus of an outlaw pulling.
Should be a fun one there, because as I dove into this individual's biography, a long history of Missouri State Tractor Pullers Association with this one. So, of course, Ron, that's your old stomping ground. So I look forward to getting some of your stories. This was actually a driver who was on the rookie ballot for Rookie of the Year for the Outlaws this year. Once I looked at his biography, not a true rookie, just one of his first years with the Outlaws. So cool looking tractor, and cool looking truck, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah, and don't call it a Ford. Do not call it a 32 Ford. It is a Chevrolet. So I made that mistake back in my announcing days. It kind of looks like a 32 Ford grill from afar, but no, it's a Chevrolet grill shell on the front of that machine. So
I would have bet dollars to donuts it was a Ford. So I learned something on here tonight as well. I thought it was an old, what do they call them, the Victorias or whatever. I thought it was kind of similar to that.
Yeah, I did as well, and they corrected me, and I got close to it a couple of times, and by golly, it does have Chevrolet symbol on there and touch the bow tie. But let's keep up with those comments tonight.
Yeah,
I know we get behind on them quite a bit. I get behind on them. I'm not going to throw you in the mix there and blame you, but Case Conover watching from Lytle, Texas, as usual. Thanks for watching, Case. Parade Alley Lounger enjoying the show from Bowling Green Parade Alley Lounge with friends. Jack Jim, Mrs. Crown Royal, and Mr. Knob Creek. Sounds like a party.
He's got all his buddies, all of his friends. And based on his comments, he's one of those, he knows how to hold it well. I think he's no stranger to the spirits out there, so he knows how to have a good time and knows a good whiskey from an average whiskey.
And of course, Case watching from Lytle, Texas. Cole Lundahl watching from Wakefield, Nebraska. The de facto mayor of Ravenna, Nebraska, watching moonshiners and enjoyed almost 60-degree. Wow, awesome. Awesome. J.R. Roth watching from Virginia. Awesome. I love it to get those fans on here watching, outside of the geographical outlaw nation, where we pull predominantly. And look at here, we've got somebody from the Sunshine State, Anthony Hoisington from Deland, Florida. Awesome. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, we love to see those from Florida. Of course, Bowling Green's out there in Ohio, and linking up Florida and Ohio and the Outlaws. I keep looking at the app for this poll that we've got going on in Satsuma, and just keep seeing a few more and a few more. And already with the Pro Stock Tractors, we do see that Jeff Parker out of Ohio. He's going to go down to Florida and pull. Now, Ron, I believe, and I've tried to do research as best I can, Jeff out of Ohio, he's pulled with the Outlaws over the years kind of consistently. And at one point, did we go all the way out to Ohio and have a pull that maybe he promoted or was
Hillsboro, Ohio in the past? The Outlaws have been there, not in the last 4 or 5 years, but yes. And that's partly because of Jeff Parker's doing. Jeff Parker, a longtime outlaw puller, has 2 pro stock tractors. That's his kind of local county fair, so he helped bring us in there when we pulled there. But yeah, we crossed not only Mississippi River but several other states to get there, and pulled in the Buckeye State there a few years back. So, and Parker, he pulled down in Texas, pulled a couple times, I think, this past season.
He was in Bedford, Iowa. I remembered. It was the first time I'd seen that tractor pull in real life and in person. And I tell you what, he's impressive. He knows how to put that power to the ground, but he's already ready to rock and roll and committed to going down to Florida, which I don't know, maybe that's closer for him compared to coming to Nebraska or somewhere. Maybe it's kind of right in the middle, but either way, excited to see how he's going to do here in a couple weeks in Satsuma.
Yeah, and also Chuck Holsworth signed up to come down from Illinois. That beautiful tractor he's got. He coming off a win down in Lufkin, Texas on that Friday night show. Yep. Good running tractor. The Fly You Fool, of course, he's a crop duster. He's coming down, and the couches are coming. I've talked to Ken, talked to Chris.
Okay.
As long as they don't tear them up the weekend before at the invitational pull there in Tennessee. So they're going to go there. Parker's going to go there as well. He says, as long as we don't tear them up, we should be in Florida. He hasn't signed up on the app. But any puller out there, Pro Stock or 3.0 diesel pickup that is considering going, if you think you're going to go ahead and get signed up on the app. Just put the app on your phone. Doesn't cost anything. You don't have to be a member to get on there, but it does help fans know who's coming. And of course, as far as I know, we are betting on this pull, right, Mike?
Yeah, and that's going to be big as well. And I think this is a big direction we're trying to take pulling as we're getting more integrated with the digital world here. The ability to pre-register, it's going to help us be involved with full pull and everything they're doing. It makes it a breeze for our clerks at our check-in table. And something that I talked about this on Let's Grow Pulling last night, and I didn't explain it well enough. I was telling people, Ron, to go ahead and sign up on the app. If you think you're not going to be there, or if you're afraid, if you don't want to sign up because you think, well, what if I don't make it? You don't hurt anything. You can drop out automatically. So if you're like, well, I might be there, I might not, go ahead and pre-register. It doesn't hurt anything. And then if you don't show, you just fall off automatically. You don't have to call or jump through a bunch of hoops, or there's no cancellation fees or something like that. It is just very, very handy. It almost just kind of holds your spot, so to speak, to know we're anticipating you.
It's easier for us to let it drop off automatically if you don't show up. Of course, if you know you're not coming, you can let us know. But if you don't, an hour before showtime, computer automatically drops you if you haven't checked in, and we prefer that over not checking in on the app at all. And so does Full Pull Picks, because they need your information in there so people can wage put bets down against or with your vehicle, or put it in the mix there. So it's easier to go ahead and put it on there. If you don't show up, it'll drop off an hour before showtime. So
yeah,
getting a lot of comment. Got Georgia
yeah.
in there, Mike. Randy Ross.
Yeah, that's what we love to see. That, and that's what we're experimenting with a little bit, is going down south, seeing how things are going to work. We definitely want to encourage you fans from Georgia, Florida. I saw Virginia in there earlier. Check out this Outlaw product. It's definitely worth looking into, and you never know what you might see going down south in the future.
Yeah, that Virginia viewer, J.R. Roth, he's a DOT tired 4x4 puller, keeping up with some of the 4x4s in the Midwest. There's quite a bit of good pulling in Virginia there. Mike, see a lot of it on social media and such.
Back in the day, it was, what was it, Tappahannock, Virginia? There was a town out there in Virginia that seemed like every good four-wheel drive truck just was coming out of that Virginia area in the mid 90s and early 90s. They had a stronghold on that class for a while.
Curtis Brannicky watching from Texas. Thanks for watching. Anthony Hoisington says they're going to be there in Satsuma. Now, besides the outlaw sanctioned classes, there are some other classes there, non-sanctioned classes. I hear we're going to have a whole mess of mini rods down there.
Yeah, they said upwards of 14 with the big blower mini rods. Of course, they're going to have some local naturally aspirated mini rods running their circuit that they have with the Just Add Motorsports. But you're going to see some of the those 2,050-pound 1471 big blown wild mini rods are going to come down and put on a show. They said they were anticipating 14 or 15 of them. Yeah,
that's what I heard. And the weather, I've been watching the weather. Now, I know some people went to the Ocala Pool. I guess it was kind of chilly. I didn't see what their temperatures were, and that's a night event, but I'm seeing mid to high 70s right now. I know it's 10-day forecast can be a little too far out sometimes, but that whole week it's looking like mid to high 70s during the day and high 50s to 60 at night for lows. So hopefully that holds. And that'll be some really good weather for pulling.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not only good weather for watching pulling, but good weather for the vehicles themselves. They're going to like that to what they're used to. That's going to be cooler air, but we're not going to be cold air. But you should see things breathing very nicely down there with that.
Brian Cruz watching from Wentzville, Missouri. Marty Samuelson, any Nebraska pullers going to Florida? Good question, Marty. Any Nebraska pullers out there?
Well, we can tell you right here on the app, on the 5.0 tractors, on the 5.0 Pro Stocks, we've got Ohio and Illinois represented so far. And in the Diesel 3.0, we've got Texas with the Lee family. Then we've got Damon Winland with the Making Trouble. Damon Winland with the Causing Trouble. Derek Elliott with the Night Moves. Derek Elliott with the Common Hooker. And Bo Curry with the Gunslinger. I'm not sure where they're from. They don't have their locations on here right now. But Ron, do you know, or any of those guys, Nebraska folks?
I've been talking to a lot of those folks, and I'd have to look here real quick just to make sure, Mike. I think we're talking Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, I think possibly Illinois, some of those trucks that I've talked to those guys. And, a lot of guys right now are sitting there with broken trucks. They've got, one guy had a split intercooler. Several others have their engines apart. Several of them are making upgrades for the 2025 season. So there's a lot of equipment out there that's still broke. And of course, this is the time of year people are used to making those upgrades and repairs.
I was just thinking that it is just a little bit of a curveball, because this has traditionally been where they budget this time to kind of pull everything apart and revamp it. But the idea, I think, is going to take root, and this is something they can start building on and scheduling around in the future as well.
And once again, the Couches, Ken Couch, Chris Couch, coming out of Tennessee. They haven't signed up on the app, but they have told me that as long as they don't tear them up in Tennessee this weekend, that indoor pool there, the Southern Invitational, they will be down there in Florida in Satsuma. Randy Ross says he's bringing his naturally aspirated two-wheel drive Chevrolet to Florida. Awesome. J.R. Roth commenting on your Tappahannock comment. He's saying most of the four-wheel drive national trucks used to come out of
that's what I thought. That was kind of their headquarters out there.
John Jones out of Lakeland, Florida. John, hopefully you'll be at Satsuma.
Good deal.
here in about a week and a half. Mark J. Ham out of South Dakota. Good evening, Mark. Kurt Van Beek said he'd love to see Greg Yeager out of Ravenna, Nebraska, coming to Florida to run with the 5.0 Pro. I wonder if his tractor is done. I don't know. I thought maybe it was down for repairs and upgrades for 2025. Not sure, but yeah, 5.0 Pro stocks, open invitation as long as you have all the safety equipment, you meet all the rules. Get on the app, get signed up, come down to sunny Florida here a week from Friday and Saturday, have a little vacay and some tractor pulling at the same time. $250 of show up money, fuel money provided by the promoter per night that you pull. So if you pull both nights, you'll get a $500 check regardless of what happens. And that's in addition to any payout that you might win down there. Right now, with the entries we have, you're guaranteed a payout.
True. Yeah.
Sign up on the app. So you're guaranteed at least 500 plus payout. And if you're in the 3.0 Pro stock or limited Pro stock diesel pickup class, there's a $500 bonus to the winner on Saturday night, provided by Bull Snot.
Yep.
Sponsor of the event down there. So going to be a big show. I mean, with the mini rods and there's already some pullers coming on here saying they're going to be there, a naturally aspirated 2-wheel drive. And then there's a big block tractor. Let's see, where'd he go here?
Yeah, he's got an Oliver Super 88, and I think I've seen some pictures of this thing. It's a mean looking machine. It's kind of what we would call in the Midwest one of those hot mods or the econo mods or something.
Classic mod or Is this one out of Kentucky by chance? I just saw a video of a big block Oliver pulling in Kentucky that made a really nice.
I'm not sure, but I think I've seen pictures of it, and the way they set these up and the stance they put on them, they're mean looking machines, so they'll put on a good show.
Awesome. Dick Blankenspore watching from Iowa. A lot of states watching tonight. Awesome. So yeah, get those things ready for Satsuma, Florida, and of course, just a few days later, the National Farm Machinery Show. We've talked several times about our pullers going. We'll go through that list again tonight. I've got it right here. Might as well go through it.
Yep, I think that's a great idea.
Was really trying to get Ryan Thornton on. Been trying to get that guy on for a few months. And I don't know, every time I talk to him, he's coaching some sport. I don't know if he just doesn't want to, if he doesn't want to come on the show or he's camera shy or what, Mike, but he's
well, they are a busy group because I've reached out to the Thornton family on a couple occasions chasing down When the Smoke Clears biography, and every time I get a absolutely, we want to do this, and then you can just tell that they're invested. So they might not be the type that likes to sit down in front of a computer for long stays of time. They've got stuff going on.
I heard a rumor that the Thumper truck, the Thorntons, was getting some new lettering, a new wrap or something going on. That's rumor.
I didn't know that, but that's interesting.
But rumor. But we'll pass it along whether it's true or not. At least we'll get it out there. But 3 4-wheel drive trucks representing the Outlaws going to Louisville this year. Dustin Ritter, him and Doug Ritter, Stroker Ace Ford. Ryan Thornton and Backdraft, Murray Thornton and Thumper. 7,500-pound modified, 2 entries. Of course, if you're an Outlaw fan, we don't run 7,500. We run 7,400-pound modified with 2 Hemis or 3 wedge motors. Vern Huser and Cameron Neves will be adding that 3rd Hemi to run that 7,500-pound class there.
How tickled were you when you saw Vern Huser? He was one of the first that I saw to get his acceptance letter on Facebook. Cameron Neves has always kind of worn that Outlaw banner really proudly, being one of the ones willing to change his setup fairly radically. So I am very excited to see 2 Outlaws pulling at the National Farm Machinery Show this year. And I'm anxious to see how Vern is going to like that 3rd engine on there. I've never seen him set it up that way. But Ron, what do you think when you saw that he made it as well?
You know what? I thought it was awesome. I know that Don Nelson put his entry in for his new tractor, which he's actually set up to run 2 or 3 engines. A little late in the season, though. I think he didn't debut it till the last hook of the season in October. So, but I'm sure we may see him get a good look next year.
I wrote, I
for next
snuck
year.
into one of my articles a couple of months ago, or a while ago, when Donald built his new mod, and I kind of alluded to. I said, "Oh, you might see two Outlaws at the farm show now," just kind of knowing that Donald had that idea that he could strap that third one on, and then lo and behold, a little bit later, it comes out, yeah, there are going to be two Outlaws there, but Vern Huser is the one who's willing to strap that on there. But I think your head's in the right spot. I would not be the least bit surprised if we saw three in the lineup now in the years to come.
Potentially, yes. I think, Donald, he's there every year with the 2-wheel drives.
Yeah.
And I think they'll give him a good look next year if he has a good season with that new mod. That doesn't have a name yet. I mean, Bullwhip Motorsports was the name we kind of hung on it down there in Lufkin. So we may see a new paint job on that tractor as well come June at Ravenna. 4-1 tractors pulling on Friday night on Valentine's Day. Dave Novak will be there, the Mean Farmer. Doug Ruth's Ruthless Binder will be there in the 4-1 class on Friday night. 2-wheel drives, was just talking about Donald Nelson, his daughter Mindy Brown driving the Little Whip. Dustin Corliss and the Texas Bullseye. Richard Morris, of course, with Buffalo's Chips, the points champion in 2024. February the 13th, I skipped Thursday here. Don Nelson and the Whippet truck will be there. Cameron Pascal and the High Cotton, both trucks out of Texas. Limited Pro Stock on Thursday. George Beyer for the side piece. Colby Lane. Lane Paulson, which we just interviewed last week. Chris Lear, Badger Deer, pulled with us once or twice last season. Going to be there as well. So a good representation of the Outlaws at the Super Bowl pulling in Louisville coming up here in a couple of weeks.
I really want to keep an eye. I think some fun stories. I always like to look at the narratives as they develop. I think a neat story that you fans can pay attention to out there, both as Outlaw fans and just pulling fans in general. So Dustin Corliss, that's going to be his swan song on the T-Bucket. That truck is sold. It's moving on. Now, Dustin, I think, is coming back in 2025 with a new vehicle, but this is the last time we'll see Dustin behind the wheel of the Texas Bullseye. And I talked to him at the banquet, and he made it pretty clear. He says, Mike, we've got one goal. And he goes, we want to make sure that we're parked in the corner and that we're pulling again on Saturday night. So he's looking to send that thing out with a bang. And then I think Richard Morris, and just watching his vehicle down there with that tight biting track and his driving style. So those are two Outlaw 2-wheel drives. Just keep an eye on them, fans. I think you're going to see something really neat one way or the other with those.
The Irish Pulling Team checking in, saying good evening. The Irish Pulling Team, mini rod guys there in that Irish Pulling Team. The mini rod class. We got the mini rod class this year pulling in Mercer, Missouri, McLeod, Kansas. Going to get about 6 hooks, I think, at least, for that mini rod division this year. And that's the threshold to have a points series, to have a points fund. So getting started right. I'm hearing a lot of good things out of Nebraska here. Not trying to change the subject, but I seen where he messaged us. But the mini rod class, I really think, is going to take off for us this summer and years to come. A lot of interest there, Mike. A lot of interest.
So, and you've alluded to something that I've kind of pushed to the back burner, because our schedule came out a couple of weeks ago and we told everyone tentative with a capital T, and I kind of put it out of sight and out of mind because I knew there was still a lot of moving pieces. But it does sound like some things are starting to change and fall in there a little bit too, like you've mentioned now. Mini rods at Mercer, I don't think that was stamped on there on the original version, so that's going to be cool. So we've got them up to 6. So will they, just to reiterate, Ron, will they be running a points race in 2025 for us?
Yeah, as long as we have 6 hooks, they will
right.
have a points fund. And we will be running points with that class. There's a few other places where we could have ran that class, but a couple other organizations that run the exact same rules, same tractors go, had pulls on those particular dates, so we didn't book them. So we potentially could have had, 8 to 10 hooks for that class in 2025, honestly. So, yeah, I see a great future for that class with the Outlaws.
Well, and I know you've worked hard to bring that to us, and there's been a lot of positive energy and a lot of buzz surrounding that. So we've got some hungry fans that are anxious to see what that class is going to put on the track. It's going to be a great show.
J.R. Ross is one of the bigger pulls in Virginia, August 2nd, East Coast National. Right off exit 91. He said 81, but corrected it down here. There in Virginia.
There you go.
Brandon says Anthony Hoisey, it's going to be a battle of the Oliver tractors.
Okay, so he's going to go down there, it looks like, in Satsuma, and pulling in that Econo hot rod or classic hot rod class as well.
And, you know, for the gearheads out there, Satsuma, if you haven't looked at the map, it's not far from the Drag Racing Museum, Don Garlett's Drag Racing Museum.
Oh, no kidding.
So that might be a stop if you're a gearhead, a drag racing and pulling fan. Go to Satsuma. You can not only go to the beach, go hang out, maybe go to Disney World, but you also go to the Don Garlett's Drag Racing Museum.
Big Daddy Don Garlett's. Man, I remember I used to get drag racing books for Christmas as a kid, and the first time I saw pictures of that Top Fuel dragster of his, I just thought there was nothing wilder. That was quite the machine that he came up with back in the day.
Yep. Do you remember the gasoline burnouts they used to do? That was probably late 60s, early 70s, where they'd actually do a burnout in the flames. That was pretty wild back in the.
I can picture it, or I've seen videos of it. No, I don't remember it, Ron. If that's what you're, I definitely.
Yeah. You should Google that, see some of those pictures. If you find some video, that'd be super cool. And, of course, back in the day too, the backup girls were always a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing back then. So if you're going to Satsuma next weekend, not this weekend, but the 7th and 8th of February, give us a shout out here. We've got a few pullers already who chimed in, said they're going, pumped up to go enjoy that Florida sunshine and go pulling as well. So 7:32, Mike, who do you have on tonight for When the Smoke Clears?
When the smoke clears, I saw this truck pull for the first time in Concord, Nebraska this summer. They said they just didn't have anywhere to pull. They were going to come up and hit maybe 1 or 2 outlaw pulls, and then they ended up hanging out the rest of the summer with us, it seemed like. Hard-running, naturally aspirated, modified 2-wheel drive truck. This week's featured driver, Mr. Joshua Rail. When the smoke clears, he's the outlaw that you'll be seeing. Let's take a look at his highlight video. Joshua Rail, the Boot Hill Express. I'm going to put this up here just because, fans, this is one of those vehicles, Ron, that's just a good-looking pulling machine, regardless of what class you might be into or what you like. That one's just a beautiful, beautiful 2-wheel drive truck. So our featured driver, as I said, is Joshua Rail. He calls his vehicle the Boot Hill Express. It is a modified, naturally aspirated 2-wheel drive. That's the class that he likes to come and hang out in. When asked how long he'd been pulling, he says he's been at this for 20 years. His first hook was in White Wright, Texas in 2004. It was a blown 2-wheel drive. And they talked to me a little bit about this summer. They said this started its life as a super modified 2-wheel drive, had the blower on it. They took the blower off. And last I talked, or early in the season, they said, we think it's going to go back to that. Our plan is to put the blower back on it. But with the season they had, this thing was it was tough exactly as it sat. So it's going to be fun to see what their plans are. But it did start as a super modified 2-wheel drive. He says his most memorable, I'm assuming this would be a win. He just said most memorable hook was at Cowtown in 2020. Now, Mr. Ron Stone, you know a thing or two about that Cowtown pull. Did he walk away victorious that year, or do you have any stories?
I think he did get a win there. First or second year we had Cowtown there. Yeah, always a good runner with Missouri State as well in that naturally aspirated 2-wheel drive class there. Used to have a pretty big class there with MSTPA. I think they've struggled with numbers the last several years. But they're, the outlaw in a 2-wheel drive or modified 2-wheel drive been kind of surging the last few years. So,
yeah. And that's what they talked about. They said it was, they're in that central Missouri or south central Missouri, that MSTPA heartland. They talked about how it used to be able to just throw a stone and they could find anywhere to hook these modified 2-wheelers. And they said it felt like it was just getting tougher and tougher to find. So they started hanging with the Outlaws. But I think they ended up having a really good experience this summer.
They did. It seems like they may have got a little late start too. May have missed a hook or two.
Yeah, it was Concord was their first one. So we were in, I want to say that was the Wednesday before Rock Valley. So we were at July once they kind of got things going. But they did so well and they had such a good time. They kind of hung around because they made it seem to me when I talked to them like it was almost going to be a one and done or maybe just this weekend. Yeah. But then the more we looked up, this truck just kept showing up places. But he says, picking up that win there at that indoor pull that you used to promote, and that was kind of your baby there in Kansas City was their big one. He says his wildest ride was at the Sedalia Dream Factory, must have been the name of the pull, in 2011. He didn't elaborate on it, just says things got a little squirrely. Points championships. They were the MSTPA, the Missouri State Tractor Pullers Association points champions in 2011, 2014, 2016, 2020, as well as 2024 this year. So even while they were bouncing back and forth, they did grab themselves a points championship. And like I said, they were on the ballot for Rookie of the Year with us. So obviously a very good year from their perspective. Joshua Rail says that his pulling hero, as with so many that we see on here, is going to be his father, Jeff Rail. Said the best advice that he's ever received or that he could ever give, very simple, never let off. His job, he's a power plant director and farmer. His big-time goal, as fitting, we've been talking tonight, he wants to pull at the National Farm Machinery Show. He said the best part of his experience with the Outlaws this summer, says every single person I met was extremely helpful and friendly. He says everybody was appreciative we were there. And I think that's a big thing that our association does. We don't get super, I don't want to say exclusive. If there's a new person, we understand that we're all in this together and we say, hey, we're glad that you're pulling with us. So that meant a lot to him. He said it made coming to the pulls very rewarding. And he said he was glad to be a part of it. So I thought that was said really well from someone who was kind of having their first time out, as I was this summer. We both had the same impression. His message to the fans, don't be afraid to come into the pits, talk to the drivers, check out the rigs. As with so many, they love having you fans out there. He says, we appreciate everyone coming to the pulls and making it happen. And when asked where you can follow them on social media, he says they don't have a page dedicated to any of their social media for this truck as of right now. Actually, as a matter of fact, I don't think they're huge in social media. We went to put a picture on here with his truck. If you notice, usually we try to put a driver photo on here and we just have the truck. His profile picture on his Facebook page was last updated in 2011. And we did.
All right.
That a 14-year gap was not a fair reflection of who he was today. So I don't know that Facebook is at the top of their priority list.
Nothing wrong with that either.
Message to the fans, come to the polls, come see us in the pits. Best place to follow them in social media is in real life. So when the smoke clears, you'll see Joshua Rail, the pilot of the Boot Hill Express.
Now, Mike, there was rumor, and you spoke to that just a few moments ago, and you just mentioned something that he wants to pull at the National Farm Machinery Show. There's not a class for
Exactly.
modified or naturally aspirated two-wheel drives at the National Farm Machinery Show. But there was rumor this past summer that there may be a blower motor going on that chassis for next summer. Did he mention anything about that to you?
That's what he told me. And like I said, I just spoke to them one time. It was at Concord. And you know, and it's one of these guys, pay close attention, folks. Just because you see the injector hats on the front does not mean that it's blown. Look for the belt. Yeah. Of course, it doesn't have a blower belt on it. So just because it looks like it does not mean that it is. But they told me, they said, you know, of course it's naturally aspirated, but you know, our goal is, they said, very quickly in the future, this is going to be a super modified two-wheel drive truck. Do you know more? Do they already have the motor, or have you heard anything?
I do not. I don't have any inside information to that.
The only reason I hesitate to perpetuate that, I know they said that in Concord. They also said, we feel that our class doesn't have as many hooks, and we're only going to hook, you know, with the Outlaws maybe this week. And then, like I said, we looked up and they hooked the rest of the summer with us. So it would be interesting to talk to them now and say, okay, are you going to hang on to that naturally aspirated a little bit and continue to pull with us as it sits? Or have we made the purchase and we're putting the blower on it or putting the new motor on it? So it just
might be worth it to give it another year, let them run the full schedule and see if they could win that points championship. Because, you know, it might have been different if they came to the very first pull and played the whole season out, you know.
To take nothing away from Luke Renner or even Matt Phelps with the great points race that they gave us. This season there was a lot to look at in this class, with David Jeems having some motor trouble early on, him being your 2023 champion. So he kind of knew early on he wasn't going to be in the race. And with Joshua Rail kind of being late to the party, as a fan, if you put, you know, the top end of that class and we see those guys swinging at each other all year long, that intrigues me. You know, that really could make for an interesting shakeup. But of course, we wish them the best. If they're going to put a blower on it and go to that awesome class as well, no better place to do that than the Outlaws. I mean, you're going to run against the best of the best when it comes to modified two-wheelers with the Outlaws. So you'll know exactly where you stand if you're gonna make that jump right here. But I don't know. That's what makes it fun, Ron. Talking about
get in there and mix it up with some legends. You get in that super modified two-wheel drive class. A lot of experience in there. But you know, that modified two-wheel drive class, it's blossoming. I think that's going to really turn into it's a great class already, but I think it's going to get even bigger. I think we're going to see the competition get even tougher in that class. I like where it's going right now. I really do.
I do too. It's but I'm a big fan of naturally aspirated power plants. So like, I also found myself falling in love with the pro stock trucks this summer, you know, but it's just, to me, it's really impressive whether it's a modified four-wheeler, a pro stock four-wheeler, or a modified two-wheeler, the amount of horsepower they're getting out of, I mean, you know, they're running these things at 10,000 RPM and getting up to, you know, 1,300 horse on the smaller ones, and, you know, however, even much more in the big modifieds. So they get a lot, you know, without any forced air.
Yeah. The pro stocks around 1,200 plus, your modified four-wheel drives, which, you know, 800 plus cubic inches, some of them. Yeah. You know, those guys are 1,800 plus horsepower with those machines. But yeah, it's pretty incredible technology. They've come a long way. I want to catch up here on our comments. JR Rolfe, going back to the comment we made about the Don Garlett's museum down there. He says that's in Ocala. Definitely worth a visit. Drag Racing and Auto Museum for anybody that's going down looking for some other things to do during the day, or maybe on Sunday, or they get there early the day before. That definitely be a place you'd want to hit if you're a gearhead. Brandon Gilliland out of Texas runs a triple engine modified. Checking in tonight. JR says the orange and silver truck that won Pro Stock 4 before was originally a Virginia truck, as well as Pro Stock 4 was originally the natural aspirated two-wheel drives on 34-inch Puller DOT tires. So awesome. Got a lot of people watching from all over the country tonight. Any other pullers watching tonight that might be going to Satsuma? And any picks? Who's your picks for the National Farm Machinery Show? We want to know who you think is going to win the thing. Hopefully, it's an outlaw puller that you're going to pick, but we are well represented there. Of course, some classes don't cross over on the rules very well. Your super farm, every once in a while, we do have super farms go sometimes. They have to make a lot of changes just to pull in, as well as pro stock. Outlaw pro stocks are limited to 5-inch turbochargers. At this time, the Farm Machinery Show does not have a 5-inch pro stock class.
I hold my breath. I always am kind of, hey, to the super farm guys, if you're willing to make the changes and go and do that, I always think that's great. But I hold my breath to encourage our pro stock guys, because sometimes, like the Mettings, they put that big 6.5-inch turbo on there, and then they don't always want to take it off and come back and hang out with us again later on. So, with the pro stock, sometimes they taste that different version of pro stocks, and we might not end up seeing them again next summer for a year or two. So
there's a lot to go along with just that turbo. They put the intercooler on there, and it's set up completely different. Big change from the 5-inch turbo. But I'm going to throw the flyer up here for our next event, our first event of 2025, February 7th and 8th. Satsuma, Florida, just add Dirt Motorsports truck and tractor pull. You can see the classes there, blown and naturally aspirated mini rods, the Outlaw 5-inch pro stocks, light super stocks, Outlaw Limited Pro 3.0 diesel pickups, approved farm, super farm, modified tractors, pro stock 4-wheel drive trucks, and modified NA 2-wheel drive trucks. The limited pro stocks, they did axe that class. They took that out, so the limited pros will not be there. So you want to see smoke, you'll get plenty of smoke from the improved farm, the super farm, the 5-inch pro stocks, and the limited pro diesel pickups. So, February 7th and 8th. Show starts at 6:30 p.m. both nights. $20 adults, $10 age 7 to 11. Cash admission only. So make sure you stop at the ATM on the way. They do not take credit cards there. So pullers, still got time to get signed in on the app. Outlaw Pulling is the app. Go ahead and get that downloaded. You can get signed in today. The app is totally free. Doesn't cost anything to get signed in now. Just make sure you check in when you get there. If you don't make it, don't worry about it. Your entry will drop off an hour before showtime. So awesome, Mike. And I seen where Kurt made a comment here a little bit ago. He said something to the effect that maybe you'd get to go next year.
I would be all on board for that. This pulling stuff, Ron, I'm living the dream. I really enjoyed it. It's going to be interesting to see what does happen in the future. Pulling, we used to think, you're a teacher and that's going to work great because, you've got your summers off and pulling is a summer sport. But we're getting to the point where pulling is our off seasons. There's really not that much of an off season. And that's wonderful as far as all of us on this side are concerned. So, I'm just going to have to figure out how I'm going to budget my personal time off. I did look the other day. I've got 51 personal days built up. So maybe we can start making some things work. But I would love the opportunity to be down there hanging out in Florida. The wife and I actually contemplated driving down just as fans, but to leave on Friday night and to try to make it all the way there by Saturday, a 17-hour drive. But we thought long and hard about going down there just to be with everybody. But it's not going to necessarily be in the cards for this go around. But if we can schedule that, Kurt, I would love that opportunity. Yeah,
I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of pullers on the east side of the Mississippi about this pull, and surprisingly enough, a lot of pullers that have their machines down, they know they can't get them ready for this pull. They said they'd love to be there, but no way they can get their tractor, their truck ready. But several of them said, "Oh, we're flying down anyway. We're going to go watch." So might have a really good crowd down there. And I will tell you, the crowds in Florida for tractor pulls are amazing. They're
is that right?
For truck and tractor pulling. They love the sport. So I'm expecting a huge crowd there.
I'm excited for our 5.0 pro stocks to come down there. Of course, our limited pro stock trucks as well, but the 5.0 pro stocks, and because in Florida they might just not necessarily see the equipment that we see. And this is nothing against the Full Pull Motorsports with their naturally aspirated minis and their their hot modified or their classic modified. But I think when they see the big womp 10,000 pound pros go down the track, like you said, they're starving for pulling, and if they get to see, what we as the Outlaws are capable of, it's really going to bring the crowd to their feet, which is the type of enthusiasm we want from fans out there. I think they're going to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I had reached out to Lacey Wager of Oklahoma with his two new pro stocks out there. They had already booked a cruise, so they would love to go, but they'd already booked a cruise. And then over the weekend, I saw where he took a little emergency trip to the hospital.
I saw that too. It looked like he wasn't feeling well, so our thoughts are with him, and hopefully everything's A-okay.
Last report I got was he was looking a little better. He was sitting on the edge of the bed and had a smile on his face, so good news there. Get well soon. Lacey, we want to see you out on the track this summer, man. You got some really nice equipment, and they were adding equipment to the stable there. So they're jumping into pulling in a big way.
They're another one, kind of like Joshua Rail, kind of showing up as an X factor this season with us. But I think that class needs to be on red alert with those guys, because that they were a hand and a glove with the way they naturally drove those machines. Those Oklahoma boys, they're going to be gunning for some wins, I think, in the 2025 season.
Very competitive group. Yeah. Their first time down the track, Mike, was a couple of practice hooks during the day on Saturday in Whitewright. Came out, one of the tractors won the class on Saturday night. So yeah, that's to jump in and get a win that quick with the drivers that we have in that class. Yeah, that's pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
Yeah. We are very excited that they're hanging out with us. It's just good stuff. All this does, Ron, I sit here, this just gets me excited for the 2025 outdoor season. It just can't get here soon enough.
What was that? Did you just spill your Skittles on the floor?
I lost. We're going to have to examine that here in just a second. I don't know. Something went kerbang, could have been. So.
J.R. Roth, whose pro stock 4x4 rules are being used? I do not know. The Outlaws aren't sanctioning that class, but I'm going to throw the flyer back up there. There is a number to call if you have any questions. JR says he used to promote and put on events. Been on a pool since 80s, helped with events since 90s. Doing some on since 2007. Been on all sides of it there. I'll throw that flyer back up there so we can get that phone number off there to Mark Kelsey. If you're a puller, you need to know those rules. See if we can see that. There we go. There it is right there at the bottom. 386-222. 9251. Does that look like what it is to you, Mike?
386-222-9251. And give Mark a call. He's a great promoter. He's been on a couple of our other podcasts. He's excited about this thing, and the impression I get is he's very easy to talk to, very welcoming to answer any of the questions that you have. So that's what I would do.
Yep, and he's a dirt guy. He's an excavator by trade. That's what he does for a living. He says this is the best track in the state of Florida for pulling. That's from the man himself. And Mike, you talked about it last week where he brought in loads and loads of Georgia clay down there to help make that a better track. Florida not known for their pulling tracks. A lot of sand down there.
And I think that's a misconception that some of the pullers get tentative about. They're like, "Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you guys are talking, Mike, Ron, great weather, destination pulling, but they say it's got that sandy, is it going to be a power track?" And he says, "Hey, don't worry. We went up and got the clay, but several tons, literal tons of that. It's a repurposed circle track that they've essentially, I was talking to him last night, have extended the front stretch on. He actually pulls the corner. He digs the corner out. He digs turn one out of it and sets up an entire track there. So they are pulling on the straightaway. They're not down on an apron like you see at some places, like at a Norfolk, or I think maybe Britt might be that way. They're actually pulling on the racing surface, but he's rebuilt it. It's a straight pulling facility.
So and we've talked about this before leading up to this event. Kind of a short notice as far as getting us involved, and we're hoping in the future we might be able to put together a winter series down there. So pullers over there in that neck of the woods, think about that. Come talk to us when we're down there. We'd like to see what kind of commitment we can get from pullers over there. And I know Mark, the promoter of this event, is interested in getting some kind of a winter series going down there. This time of year, I'm told, I'm not from Florida, of course, but this is their fair season. Wintertime is the fair season in Florida. So this would be the time, to get that winter series. You get a series going in Florida during their county fairs and such. July and August up here, we're running ourselves ragged going from fair to fair. But let us know what you think. Getting an outlaw winter series down there in the South, in Florida specifically. So something we're kind of excited about, and hopefully we can get some positive feedback when we're down in Satsuma next weekend.
Yeah, that's an idea that gives me goosebumps to think about. I mean, if we could be not only pulling in general or the outlaws in general, however you want to look at that, but doing this year round, bringing this to people who don't get to see it. There's nothing not cool about what you just talked about right there. That's just such an awesome concept, fans, as you mold that over. So yeah, this is something we'd love to see be successful. I have no doubt it's going to be successful. Weekend after next.
Yep. Weekend after this coming weekend, 7th and 8th of February. So Mike, the contracts are coming in. Just to give everybody an update on the outlaw season. We've talked about the new hooks we've got here, a couple of hooks on the other side of the Mississippi in Illinois. I actually had a few other calls from the state of Illinois.
No kidding.
Unable to do those hooks just because of our schedule the way it is already. Got a couple of calls out of the state of Minnesota. Still kind of working and talking to those folks. So a few new hooks on the schedule. Right now in total, if you put them all together, hooks at class hooks at each particular event, there's a total of about 350 for the season so far. So here's a question I'd like to put out there. I've got a lot of people watching, still getting close to shutting it down here, but we're adding mini rods this year, adding the super stock diesel 4x4 on a limited basis this year. What class do you want to see with the Outlaws on the national level, on the regional level? Me personally, I'd love to see a super modified four-wheel drive.
That is a class. I'm surprised more national level associations. Well, I'd say none of us national level associations have taken that one yet. That should. I'm shocked that no one has. There's several state and regional levels. I think TNT might have it. OSTPA might have had it at one point in time. I agree, Ron. That one intrigues the heck out of me. That's one would be neat to see get successful.
Yeah, Brandon Jack says semis. We do have a semi class. It's been a little slow to grow, but wow, the crowds love it. Our semis are limited to, we started out making it 4.1, went to 4.6, dropped back to 4.1. Now I think we've opened it up. We're just going to leave it at 4.6 turbo on those semis. The crowds love those semi trucks, and that class is just going to continue to grow. I've heard of a few trucks being built. Some guys coming that already have trucks that pull in that particular class, going to come pull with us this next summer. Super excited about that class as well.
If I was a promoter, I would ask for that class every single time. I think Monster Jam, one thing Monster Jam does, Monster Jam has a stranglehold on the kids market.
Yeah.
Little kids love monster trucks. Parents will do almost, it's crazy what a parent can be talked into to do for their kiddos at fair season and entertainment season. So you roll that kind of stuff out there and parents are like, you know what? Yeah, let's go see Gravedigger. Let's go see Megalodon or whatever. The kiddos love the semis. And if you can get the kids wanting, then the parents will say, you know what, we'll come, we'll stay, we'll come, we'll stay. That would be a good, if I was a promoter, I would want that every single time, because that's the ones kids can be very persuasive. I promise you.
Yeah, and adults love that semi class too.
It's freaking cool.
There's nothing cooler about seeing a Peterbilt out there with the driver's side front tire about 2 to 3 feet off the ground, where they're twisting them up and they're really getting a hold of the track, and that's just super cool. Of course, they're rolling smoke, and yeah, just a super cool class, and I'm excited about that class as well. Light super stock and diesel super stock classes combined, and yep, that's.
Well, what
that's
people
an
need
idea, but yeah, usually you see that with diesel super and the big unlimited supers. Yeah, not sure. We could probably
the
do
diesels can, as long as the diesels make weight. People always talk about they need to combine the classes. Yeah. Diesels can run in this class anytime they want. It's an open class, and Mark Ulmer. Mark Ulmer did it last summer. He ran the weapon in the light super stock. So fans always talk about this. It's the drivers who kind of would say, well, why would I put my diesel against an alcohol? But it's just something to kind of keep in mind. But yeah, technically speaking, that class can be a combined class at any point in time. It's just a matter not if the drivers want to do that, Yeah,
the diesel super stocks set up for 8,200 pounds. And then our super stocks are light. They're light super stock, light supers.
Yeah.
So they're down.
We don't have a super stock open. We don't have a heavy supers.
Yeah. You combine, and yeah, there'd have to be some handicaps going on there to make that work with our light super classes. So yeah, that's now there was a little talk last year that they were trying to get something going at Unionville to have a combined diesel super stock alcohol class.
Yeah. They were going to do a shootout.
Yeah. It didn't end up panning out, but I think they're still kind of talking about it. Brandon Jack 2-wheel drive diesels. Yeah, I've heard some people talk about that. Did you ever see the Wagler blown diesel 2-wheel drive that he used to drag race? They used to drag race it, and they would convert it to pull it on the pulling track. Did you ever see that, Mike?
My brain is trying to process what you said. You said blown diesel.
Roots supercharger sitting on a V8 Duramax diesel.
So is that going to be like a comparable supercharger to what you see like the Allisons running on them? Is that going to be a supercharger?
No, this is a Roots style supercharger, like you see on a blown 2-wheel drive or a.
Okay. So it's belt driven and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
On top of a V8 Duramax with zoomy headers, about as loud as a Hemi, but belching out black smoke through all 8 headers. You need to Google that.
I can't. That's like error 404 does not compute. Yeah. I can't. That's
go on YouTube and look that up. The Wagler 2-wheel drive. That was the coolest thing that they used to exhibition with that thing. It was awesome. There's not only black smoke, but fire shooting out of the pipes, and then black smoke at the end of the fire.
There's some down in Florida that are running the super modified 2-wheel drive. We've got a couple of super modified 2-wheel drive trucks that hook with us that have turbochargers on them, but they're still running methanol. There's a couple down in Florida who have left it or converted it to diesel. So I can picture some, I guess you'd call them super modified 2-wheel drives that have gone turbo and diesel, but to go supercharger and diesel, that I know what I'm doing as soon as the show's over. I'm looking at
you need to look that up. You will thank me. I promise you. Mm-hmm. You're going to think that the cool factor is way up there. One of those trucks you're talking about down in Florida. What is this? Green and white.
8 up. I think it's called 8 up. It's like 7 up.
Actually came out of Missouri. That's an old Missouri State truck.
No kidding.
The guy that had that in Missouri won the points championship like several times with that truck.
Sure.
When it had it actually had a Ford motor in it. Mm-hmm. Similar to the one that's on the David James.
Sure. Okay.
For 2-wheel drive had the same heads and such, but that was a pretty tough truck with Missouri State. Cole Dawson's unlimited mod would be interesting. Wayne Purser and Uncle Sam made 2 passes in Wayne a few years ago.
That would be intriguing. I agree.
Get excited when they see you on an open trailer at a gas station. When I was a kid, I used to sit on the fence next to my mom's work watching the pullers go through town.
Oh,
I'm
that's
right there with
one
you.
of the best things, dude. That's one of the, you just sit there and I agree. That's a memory every pulling fan should have as a kid, is watching them roll into town.
I can remember craning my neck from the back of the car
Yeah.
to get that first look into the pit area from way far away to see if I could see anything new over there.
Your dad gets you there at 4 o'clock. The pull starts at 7, and you're nervous you're going to miss something. I can remember that.
Yeah. So, well, we went past tonight.
Yep.
I thought we were going to be. I thought we was going to have plenty of time left over tonight, but we get a couple pullers jabbering about stuff and some people.
It's like Ron. It's like we get paid to talk about pulling or something like that. I don't know. So.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Pullers out there, if you're going to Satsuma, you're pulling one of the Outlaw classes, 5-inch Pro Stock or Limited Pro Diesel pickups. Download the Outlaw pulling app. Get signed up. People might want to bet on you through Full Pull Picks down there. Should be very cool. So. Safe travels out there. A lot of people are going to the Southern Invitational this weekend in Tennessee. Some of those pullers are going on down to Satsuma from there. So safe travels for those pullers. And Mike, thank you. Thanks to everyone watching tonight, as a lot of our viewers watch every single week. And Mike, don't forget to text me a little bit. Tell me what you think of that truck. That's
I'm looking forward to. That's I need to see that.
You need that in your life.
Yep. Yeah, this was a fun one. Thanks for all the comments, guys. We love that we have such an interactive audience that's always got a lot of good stuff to say. And Ron, thanks for all you do, always making this a great show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next Tuesday on Outlawed Live.
345 and 86 right now. 345 and 86. Here we go with the Kentuckian. Grass. Oh, yeah. Missouri Buffalo's chip. Are you ready here tonight? Wow. All right, here we go, fans. The truck out of Georgia, the bumper crop. And Cole Altman, once again, that mark to beat 340.42.